You're listening to the Arcbenders Podcast, a show created to challenge you to be bold enough to live an extraordinary life with impact. I'm here with Elisa Herr.
And that's Christina Noel. Now sit back, find your happy place, and get inspired.
P.S. This episode contains a bit of salty language. Welcome back to the Arcbenders Podcast. We're so excited you're here.
Me too.
We have the most... Oh, wait.
Now I'm interrupting you.
Okay, I was just going to say, I was like, we have the most inspiring guest today. But that's just me being dramatic because all of our guests are inspiring. But I will say, Maggie is insanely inspiring.
She is. I love her. I was actually a big fan of her before she even launched the restaurant.
Well, how did you know about her?
I used to work with her sister-in-law.
Oh, okay.
So I heard the story about how she wanted to start a place at the table. And it was so intriguing to me that I've been following her from the beginning. A Place at the Table is this amazing restaurant in downtown Raleigh, North Carolina. It's a pay-what-you-can cafe. And they serve alongside more than 60 other pay-what-you-can restaurants in the global One World Everybody Eats network.
Yeah, and so if you've never heard of a pay-what-you-can cafe, essentially whenever you go in, it's this beautiful cafe. You definitely should check out the show notes. We'll have photos. But it's a normal restaurant, and it has a menu, and all of the prices are suggested. And so Maggie's going to talk a little bit more about what that means, but it is, to me, one of the most magical places I've ever been. And Maggie is an example of how... Essentially, like, if you have a big dream of how you want to change the world and you're nervous about whether or not you can make it happen, this is essentially the interview for you. This is a story of someone who had a vision and it took her 3 years to really realize it. And I think that's incredible. And I think that shows so much persistence. And there were so many people who looked at her as this young woman who was naive, and yet she made it happen. She helped people see her vision, and she launched something that's really special in our community. And in many ways, it's like a beacon of hope. It
really is. And I do agree that one of the really impressive things about her, there are many, but one of the things is this commitment that she has to her dream. She knew that she was onto something. She knew that it was something that even if it didn't work, she had to try, just because she didn't always want to wonder. And the barriers that she ran into, and she'll talk about this in her interview, just the fact that it did take so long for this cafe to get launched. I mean, it's really incredible that she stuck with it, like the persistence. And I think that a lot of times we have a fear that if something's taking a long time, that means that it's not going to work. Or if enough people tell you that it won't work, that it won't work. And I'm so impressed by Maggie that she didn't let that stop her. So there's kind of been a big movement around impact metrics. I think the one thing that's really great about Maggie's story is the fact that you get to really define how you want to measure impact. There's a lot of trends in impact investing and this idea that the only way you can change the world is systemic change. In fact, there's a book that I actually recommend you read. It's called Winners Take All, The Elite Charade of Changing the World. And I will say it is definitely worth the read because it will open your mind, and there are definitely points made in the book that are worth exploring. But my one critique of the book is that it kind of writes off social entrepreneurship, and it somewhat writes off small local change. And our guests today in A Place at the Table really challenge that. Because I think that storytelling and helping people connect with their humanity and changing even one life is still noteworthy and is still worth celebrating. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, her metrics are crazy. I know we're going to talk about it again in the introduction, but let's talk about it now. Oh my gosh. In less than a year of opening, A Place at the Table had over 8,000 meals served. And that was served to people in need. More than 25,000 patrons made the decision to pay it forward and donate a meal, which generated over $136,000 in donation. And they had over 24,000 volunteer hours where volunteers came into the cafe and dedicated their time just to help keep it running. And oftentimes they would earn a meal.
And part of the impact metrics, I love that they include this on the sign in their restaurant, is that they but that they have over 1 million smiles, hugs, and laughs. And the community that they're building there is part of the impact that they're creating through the cafe. And it's not just about the money, and it's not just about the, counting heads or whatever. It's really about this spirit that they're putting into their community.
And the other thing about Maggie that is so impressive to me, okay, again, I feel like it's the same thing. It's like one of the many things that impress me. But I feel like one thing from a social impact standpoint that she is just doing an outstanding job of is storytelling. So I receive a Place at the Table's emails. I highly recommend you sign up for their e-newsletter. And I swear, okay, this might not be the best sales pitch, but for me, it's a compliment. I cry like half the time they send an email. And actually, even getting ready for this interview, I was going back and reading some of her emails, and I just started crying again because they're so touching. So just to give you a blurb of one. So after hurricane that hit in September, Maggie sent out this email. And she goes, "Last Thursday was a hard one for me. All day I paced back and forth on making the decision to open or close on Friday. In the end, I knew we had to close because I did not want anything to risk the safety of our staff. Before I left for the day, one of our community volunteers, Daryl, was about to leave with a thin t-shirt on his back and a bag with half a sandwich. I knew he would not go into the shelter for many reasons. I knew he would do what I was doing and pace back and forth, hoping it would not keep raining all night. I knew it was not going to be a fun couple of days for him. There really was no answer to make the night better for him, but we decided he needed a jacket. We walked across the street to Goodwill and found a warm jacket with a hood he could spend the next few days in. Let me tell you, he wore that thing proudly as if we had purchased the most expensive fur coat in the world. Our staff opened back up on Saturday at 8 a.m. Who do we see walking right up at 8:05 in his jacket with a large smile? Daryl. He's been with us every day since, wearing his jacket. Yes, I know it's 90 degrees out, and spending time with us. We are so lucky." And then she goes on to actually say, hey, there were hurricane victims. And she actually goes to promote another nonprofit and encourage people to donate to this other nonprofit to help other people in need. And that's just one of the examples. I can't handle it. I just, because that's what it's all about. It's about the one person. It's about the individual and the lives that are changing. And if you ever go to the cafe and you meet some of the volunteers and you see how important it is to them to have just a place that they can go and belong, your life will be changed. You will be a different person.
Yeah. And I think that it really is worth noting that, and kind of going back to the idea of some people think that systems change is the only way, but that leaves out the people who have immediate needs. Systems change is slow. It's important, but it's slow. And it takes a lot of work to get it moving because the rock's a lot bigger. And so when we're talking about what can we do now to help people now, it's the things that Maggie's been doing. It's like creating a place where people feel like they're welcomed, and a place where they can get food and be respected for their humanity, and not feeling other than or whatever.
Well, I love that, and I completely agree. And also, if we're going to achieve systems change, especially at times like the ones that we're in, we also have to change hearts and minds and help all of us connect back with our humanity, not what is our political view, or how do we feel about things? Or when it comes to people who are homeless or in poverty, there's a lot of bias around the idea that they're lazy or that they somehow deserved what happened to them or didn't achieve enough, which is why they ended up in those circumstances. And yet, when you have places like A Place at the Table or nonprofits that actually help get you in front of people that are living in poverty or people that are homeless, you start realizing that the systems have failed them. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh, wait, this could be me. This might be me if I didn't have a family to fall back on. Like, this might be me if all of these circumstances happened to me in the way that they happened to them. And then all of a sudden, it's hard to start ignoring the fact that we have to be, let me rephrase that we have the opportunity to do more. And that these people are our brothers and our sisters in the world. And that, one big thing with Archbenders is we're all about, you have to take care of yourself. And yeah, I do believe that part of taking care of yourself is tapping into your humanity. And when you go to places and support organizations like A Place at the Table, and when you go and try to do things to fight poverty, and when you go and try to create a more just and equal world, that helps all of us. It helps everyone become better.
Totally. Going back to our last episode, about burnout and how we feel, both Christina and I have been getting burnt out, which is exactly the reason why this episode is also late. It's not late. We've changed the schedule.
It's right on time now.
It's right on time. It's right when it needed to be released. But some of the advice that Maggie had really hit home for me, and I don't want to ruin it, so I'm not going to say it all right now. But Maggie also had some really great things to say after we turned off the recorder, and I don't want to let those go away. So in terms of getting stressed out and feeling like you're really overwhelmed, Maggie said, don't get stressed and turn it into not doing anything. I feel like we all see that big rock, and we're like, oh, I don't know how to move that giant boulder that's in my path. But it's really, when you feel like you can't do all of it, you can certainly break it down. And you don't have to feel like you need to solve the entire world's problems, because nobody can do it all. Nobody can solve world hunger, but some people can help people right in their local communities. You have to be okay with that because you're making a huge impact there too. And I think that it's important for us to talk about how fear does hold us back. Just, that fear that you're not going to be able to make a big enough impact. And I really love, Christina, you were talking about some advice last week that had to do with setting goals.
Yes, I was setting goals for my own social enterprise, and I kept being hesitant to set them, and I was trying to go deep and understand why. And I realized it was because once I set goals, I was putting a stake in the ground of what I want to do. Also, I realized in setting the goals that I had that I really can't do it alone. And even though I say, I'm like, you should always get help. You should never try to do anything alone when you're trying to change the world. Still, my natural default is tackling things alone. and being a self-starter and just getting shit done. One thing that I love about Maggie is she's such a great example of how she engaged the community. And that she really didn't do it alone. That she really did get people bought into the vision. And I just realized that in setting the goals, one of the ways I was able to set them was, Elisa, I got your help. Like, you and I came together and we both projected out our monthly cash flow, which sounds really nerdy, and it was painful, right? Like, that is not fun. Unless you're a finance nerd, that is not fun work. But when we did it together, it was a lot less painful. And it was something that now is really empowering. Like, looking back on it, I'm so thankful we did that painful task together. Because I don't know that I would have gotten it done alone.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have. Part of it was like just setting aside the time for it, but also thinking about how I'm afraid to see those numbers because then I know either how bad it could be or how good it could be. Obviously, having a clear picture is the better path, but I've been reflecting on it a little bit, like, why am I afraid of this? What is my inner voice telling me about, how is my inner voice answering that question about why am I afraid? And how can I kind of change the script around a little bit? Actually being able to set goals is really scary, to say, like, in Maggie's case, like, I'm going to open this restaurant or whatever. Like, or for me, I'm like, I'm going to grow my company to this number. And it's like, it's terrifying, but you know, it's okay if you don't meet the goal. You have to try. And then if you don't meet it when you think you want to, maybe there's a reason, but you could change it. You know, like, you can change your goals.
Yeah, like, you can always pivot. You can always redirect. But the thing is, the reason I decide to pivot, or if I fail, I don't want to fail because there was this underlying fear that I didn't deal with that held me back. And I think that's really important whenever you're taking on anything that's huge. And when you have any really ambitious goals. And also, inherent to this all is also becoming deeply vulnerable. And that's actually one thing that I'm working on, is essentially I'm going to launch this accelerator program in September to create a safe space in entrepreneurship for people that the program's called Figure Your Shit Out. And it started as a joke. I wasn't going to call it Figure Your Shit Out. But I was talking to a friend who's a graphic designer, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to create this resource, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be for early stage entrepreneurs, and we're going to come together and figure our shit out. And she's like, hey, have you thought about calling it that? And I was like, haha, sure. But I couldn't come up with a better name, and so I decided to, whenever you're trying to do something, it's always a good idea to test it. And so I decided to test this model with 6 different businesses this year, and I couldn't come up with a better name. And then I realized it really kind of is a perfect name. We can simplify it, and we call it FISO. So FISO meets weekly, and for me, it's been a really big lesson. And the feedback that I've been getting is, yes, it's helpful to have structure, and yes, it's helpful to have accountability, but a lot of the greatest value has just been having support, because not all entrepreneurs have their version of Elisa, if that makes sense. And even when I was first starting out, when Elisa and I were getting to know each other, I didn't have that either. And so I know how isolating it is to be tackling something and to try to live your dreams and to be able to make that progress on something that's really daunting and scary and uncertain.
Totally.
So, yeah, well, and you know, another thing that's been really hard, or like another fear that I've been working on, has been, and we talked about it last time, but it's been boundaries. Like, I've really been leaning into the boundaries challenge.
Can you fill us in on how that's going for you since the last episode?
I'm doing it. I'm doing it, but it's so hard. I had a coffee plan with a friend this week. I'm just giving you a shout out. Heather Hooper, I love you. And I knew I needed to cancel it because I needed some more space that day to do work. And so I pushed it back a month. And there was another call. Oh, I think you can hear Shadow. There's my dog. And then there was another call that was with an amazing starting block fellow. And I had another meeting shuffled, and I just knew I couldn't do it, and I was feeling overwhelmed, and so I postponed it. And I've also been working from home, and you know, and I know some people would prefer that I be in person, and I'm having to set aside like this desire to want to give and give and give, and realize that to succeed at what I'm trying to do, I have to be selfish with my time, and that I have to put these boundaries in, and that I have all this amazing and impactful work I want to do, and the only way I'm going to do it is if I have 6 hours a day to do it. and that's on top of, you know, client work. So, but that's just it. A lot of those feelings are fear. It's that fear that I'm letting people down. It's that fear that I should. I think the other words that I've thought about is should.
Yeah. Stop shooting on yourself.
Yeah, no more shoulds. Like, oh, I should have gotten more done. I should have done this. I should go to this event. No, you should do what you deep in your gut know you need to do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Since the last episode, I've been really good about, well, maybe not good, but I've been a little bit more brave about setting my boundaries and doing things that make me a little bit uncomfortable, because I know that in the long run, it'll be better for me. So one example was that I had a commitment to go to a conference with Christina, in DC, and I was really looking forward to it. And, we're going to do this podcast recording stuff there, and Christina's still doing it.
I am. It's PurpleCon.
Yeah.
Run by an amazing art vendor.
Yeah, I was going to go to that with you. And then you found this conference that you were like, Elisa, if there's anything that you're going to put your money towards this year, it needs to be this conference. And it just happened to be at the same exact time in my home state, in a city that I love, Asheville. I'm going to the Momentum Summit, and I'm so excited to be going, but I felt so bad canceling on my commitment for going to PurpleCon. It just, it made me feel so bad. But I do honestly believe that I made the right choice.
Well, you did. And we're a team. And so we're going to divide and conquer and represent art vendors in 2 cities.
Yes, we are.
And they're both mission-driven impact conferences. So,
Totally.
We do the best we can. But I was really proud of you. I mean, you knew deep in your gut that, it was a place you need to be. And also, you need to go represent Unity, too.
Yep.
And I mean, that's one thing that we've talked about with this podcast is this is our gift to the world. But also, the only way it's going to succeed is if we also take care of our mission-driven companies as well.
Right. Exactly. And I know you hate the word hustle, but I have been calling this our side hustle.
Yeah, hustle. I mean, it is our side hustle. But I don't like the word hustle. I say it's our passion project.
Oh, that's a good one.
The passion project. It's our gift to the world. These stories, which, oh my gosh, really, it's just sharing these amazing, inspiring people who, in turn, will totally help change your life. Well, speaking of, do we want to get on to the interview?
Let's do it.
Cool. Do you want to do the intro?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
Maggie Kane is the founder and executive director of A Place at the Table in Raleigh, North Carolina, a nonprofit social enterprise that provides community and healthy food for all, regardless of means. The way A Place at the Table works is customers have multiple options to pay and to pay it forward. They can pay the suggested price, pay at least half of the suggested price, or pay by volunteering with them. To pay it forward, you can tip to help fulfill their mission, or you can buy a $10 token to hand out in the community. In recognition of the amazing work that they do in the community, Maggie and A Place at the Table were featured on the Today Show, and Kelly Clarkson totally tweeted about how amazing and inspirational Maggie is.
So we are here today with Maggie Kane, the founder and executive director of A Place at the Table in Raleigh, North Carolina, our hometown.
Raleigh.
So Maggie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to be here. You guys are wonderful. I immediately smiled when I saw you pull up. So I'm glad y'all are here.
A Place at the Table is a nonprofit social enterprise that provides community and healthy food for all, regardless of means. And it is one of my favorite places in the world. So not only is the mission inspiring, but their food is so good. And we just ate here.
What did you get?
Oh man, so I tried the squash soup and then your house salad. It was on point. And then I also had a soy cappuccino, which, oh my gosh.
Latte art.
So good.
A dream, right?
I know, so good.
Oh, am I going first? Okay. I forgot that I put my name on this. All right. So what initially inspired you to launch A Place at the Table, and how did you approach getting it started?
Prior to this, I worked at Love Wins Ministries. So Love Wins was a day shelter. We had people coming in every single day to get a cup of coffee, to get off the streets, people without means primarily, and primarily people experiencing homelessness. So it was a place to just be in the day. While I was there, I got to know a lot of people. I got to be friends with people who were different than me, people who lived outside. And during that time, I started to go wherever they went. So we'd go to the soup kitchen for lunch. And when I was at the soup kitchen with them, I realized that, the soup kitchen fit a hunger need, but there was something missing. Yes, they were serving over 300 people, but there was this piece that I had in my life that a lot of those folks did not get to experience. So at a soup kitchen, if y'all have been, you wait in line for a good 10, 15, 20 minutes, then you get handed a plate. And you don't get to choose what you want. It's whatever they have that day, which is great. And it's, again, filling people's bellies and helping people with that food need. But you get handed a plate, you sit down, and then you have to eat in about 5 minutes so someone else can come in and eat. And so every time I left there, I started to wonder, what more could we do? And I started to ask folks, let's go out for a meal. Are you know, it's your birthday, it's your anniversary. Where would you like to go? And a lot of times we go to places like Golden Corral, or do you know the K&W Cafe? Yep, I ate there a lot. We go to places like that, and I started to ask, why are we at these places? And what I found was we were there because of choice. They could choose whatever they wanted on a menu, and then they could sit for a long time and be treated with dignity and get served and have the coffee lady come around and fill their coffee multiple times. And it was a nice experience. And we would spend hours just sitting there talking and sharing in conversation and getting to know one another. And just because I had means and they didn't, did not mean that we could not be friends, did not mean that we could be in this world together. And so at that point, I started to research anywhere from, nonprofits to restaurants to nonprofit restaurants, and found the Pay What You Can system, and found that there were over 60 Pay What You Can restaurants across the country. And that's how we started working on it. We went to visit the closest one in Boone, North Carolina. There's actually a few folks from Boone here today, which is so special when they come down to visit. But went to Boone and learned from them, and said, I actually went up a couple times just to see, am I crazy for thinking we could do this in Raleigh? But I learned from them. I asked a ton of questions. I probably annoyed the hell out of them, but they are my greatest friends now today. So thank you for that. But I asked them a lot of questions. I learned from them. I volunteered with them. I brought probably 5 or 6 different people up with me every time I went to tell me, Maggie, you're crazy. Don't do this. And then they never did. People believed in it from the beginning, and that's where we are today.
What was the place in Boone called?
Farm Cafe, which is feed all regardless of means, and it's right on King Street, right across from App State.
I went to App State, so it wasn't there when I was there.
They were there in 2011.
How long have you been working at this before a place at the table opened?
So people come in all the time and they say, Maggie, I've been following you since the beginning. It's so beautiful what you're doing. Thank you. I've been following you for so long. And I'm like, oh, for the whole 4 years? They're like, no, 6 months, right? So no, we have been open for 9 months officially. I actually made a Facebook error, and you probably caught this, Christina, because that's just who you are. You're wonderful and catch these things and good with social media. And I said, happy 10 months to a place at the table. It's October, so what did I think? 10-10, right? We opened January 10th or something like that. No, it's the 9th month, okay? I did this in July too, so that's what makes it so bad. But whatever. Right. And no one told me. That's the worst. Until 3 days in with this post, and people are like, Maggie, you messed that up. I'm like, you didn't tell me. I could have deleted it. But we have been open 9 months, and it's just been great. But we've been working on it for 4 years. So it took a lot of time to build and to just take something from the ground up. We incorporated in February of 2015 and incorporated as a business, started forming a board of directors, and then just started spreading awareness. We applied for nonprofit status, and we received our nonprofit status in November of 2015. So we've been a nonprofit for 3 years and have just been working tirelessly to open this.
So what are some of the biggest obstacles that you've overcome?
Definitely number one was finding a location. So for a couple years, finding a location was tricky because people thought of us as a soup kitchen. They had this bad image in their mind of what we would be, which is a whole nother point. I could talk for hours about it. But they had this vision and image that this is going to be a place where people are going to be standing out front and long lines and everything. And we knew we needed to be in downtown Raleigh. So finding a place in downtown Raleigh was hard for that reason. Finding people to let us rent their space was tricky because they thought of that And also, we were just this concept, right? We weren't a product. They couldn't see it. We didn't have a video. We didn't have anything that showed that we were going to be this nice cafe where you actually want to come in. The food is good. So finding someone to allow us to rent their space was hard. So that was number one. Then finding the donors, number two. Finding people to give bigger money to make this happen. You know, we didn't just need $20,000 to open this. My original budget was for, I think the first one we built was $50,000. So I'm like, oh yeah, all we need is $50,000. We launched a crowdfunding or GoFundMe campaign, and we didn't get anywhere near 50,000. And oh yeah, it took a lot more than 50,000 to open this place. But you know, you couldn't really ask for money without having a space. So it's that chicken and egg, that fight of how do we ask for money if we don't have a space? How do we get a space if we don't have money? So those are probably the two biggest challenges. And then the third would probably be keeping people engaged for 3 years. Keeping people engaged because people get bored and people lose interest. If you don't have something to give them, they lose interest. So we just tried to keep it fresh and kept going, and luckily people stayed with us.
I love your persistence.
Most people think it was crazy. But you know what? No one ever told me, Maggie, that's a terrible idea. If someone had said, Maggie, that's a terrible idea, and it was never going to work, then we would have stopped and we would have just been done trying.
So, now that it's open, what has surprised you most about A Place at the Table so far?
So what has surprised me? 1,000,001 things. First and foremost, that the model works, and it works beautifully, and it's amazing, and people are happy to be here, and there's been incredible community that has been built here. People with means are eating here. People without means are eating here. All people feel welcome. The model works, and I just don't think we ever thought that. My manager, we have a full-time staff, so we have a manager on staff to manage the cafe and everyday operations. And in about the 5th month, I asked him that question, what has surprised you the most? And none of my staff has been with me since the beginning. So they've only come on when we've opened up. And he said to me, Maggie, sorry, clapping. We have a group upstairs. It's great. So he said to me, I said, so Josh, what's surprised you the most? He said, that people actually eat here all the time, that I'm not just sitting around twiddling my thumbs and coming up with things to do. He's like, Maggie, never in a million years did I think that we'd have people coming in every day, all day, and eating and supporting and paying it forward. Honestly, that the model's worked. People have supported us by either paying the suggested price, paying more and paying it forward, or by volunteering or paying less. So everyone has found their place here, and they've found their way to be a part of this community. And so that leads to my second point, that this really is a community cafe. We are known as the place that is a presence in downtown Raleigh, where you can come no matter who you are, and everyone has been open to it and receptive and loving and welcoming. The Pay What You Can model does really work. We have anywhere from 20 to 40 people every single day volunteering for their meal or paying a little bit less. And so it works. And most of the time, you never know who's volunteering for their meal and who's just simply volunteering because they want to volunteer. And everyone's volunteering together. People are eating together. So it's just so awesome. And it's only been 9 months.
What's so amazing is I love that you're talking about community. And then right now, so we're sitting next to a staircase, and there is a community of people that were using the upstairs of the restaurant, and they're all walking down the stairs. And it's just so powerful to know that this truly is, like, in many ways, like the heart of downtown Raleigh.
And I also love that you told us that this is a slow day, and I can't even imagine. It's incredible. I mean, I've seen. How big is that upstairs? It's just they just keep coming down the stairs. It's just so cool to see your vision come to life in such a beautiful way.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. This is not me. And I will say that every day, all day. This is not me. I am the crazy one who just kept pushing it and making people help. But it truly is this whole community. People have really chipped in where they fit and where they feel a part of it. And we have, 1,000 people, more than 1,000 people who are involved in some sort of way that make this possible every single day. And it's just been amazing and really humbling to see.
This is something that we've talked about. So in social impact, caring so much about your baby, which is your vision, is so inspiring and gets you up every day, but at the same time, managing your energy. Like I got an email from you making sure we were on today at 5:30 in the morning.
I was up 2 hours before that, but I was like, she's going to think I'm crazy if I email her at 3:30.
No, but I wouldn't. But that, like, my question is, how are you taking care of you? And I mean, and it's okay if the answer is you're not and you're working on it. But I think that's one of the things that we're trying to talk about on here is, like, how can we, as leaders in social impact, manage ourselves and, like, put in those boundaries?
I am a huge preacher of self-care. Self-care, self-care, self-care. And I maybe don't do it every day 100%, but I really am just such a believer in taking care of yourself first, and then you can take care of everything else. I wake up at 3:30 because I'm a runner. I completed my first marathon this year, which was crazy. I would never do it again. No thanks. But second greatest achievement after opening a place at the table. And running is important to me. And if I don't run in the morning, I know that my day is not going to be as successful. I'm not going to feel as positive. I also am a huge believer in quiet time and some sort of meditation. And I also know if I don't do that every day, then my day is not going to be as successful and as great. So those two things every morning before I start my day are really important to me. I also am a huge extrovert, but I gain energy on my own. So I like to spend a lot of time with myself at night. I'm not going to lie. I do like some Netflix. I read a lot, which is awesome. I'm always in between some sort of leadership book and some other fun romance novel or mystery novel. But I also love to watch Shameless and the newest I'm all about the Shameless. I just can't believe they're like her life. But also I just started this new show. What's the one with the plane? Have y'all seen this on ABC? It's or whatever CW, whatever channel it is. It's Manifest, I think. Oh yes. So I am tuning in every week. I don't have cable, but I wait till Tuesday morning and I watch it. So I believe in self-care and I know that if I don't do that, then this place will not be what it is. And I'm not afraid to say that happened. You know, the first couple of months I didn't take care of myself and I was really worn down, and that showed in a place at the table. So self-care.
So with having worked on creating a place at the table for 3 years before you even opened, you talked a little bit about some of the obstacles that you had about getting people to kind of understand what you're going for. And bringing them on board. How did you get people on board with your vision? You've got this thing in your head. You know what you want it to look like. I'm sure it doesn't look exactly the way that you pictured it first, but how do you get people to jump on that wagon with you?
Good question. You just start telling the story. People will listen when you start telling the story, and it will spiral that way. It'll spiral down. And I again, like I said, this would not be possible without the community of people that have believed in this. But your community is there to support you and to back you. And people, if they believe in someone, they believe in something too. So if you tell the story and say why it's important, people will follow you. And that's what I found here. People followed, and people started to believe in it and saw that this really could be a place that could impact a lot of people. And so I don't know if that answered the question, but I think just beginning to tell the story and not being afraid to tell the story. I was so passionate about this, and I've thought about this for years and years and years. And until I said something out loud, at first I thought, no one's gonna get this. This doesn't make sense, because in my head it didn't make sense that this could actually be something we accomplish and do. I never looked at myself as a leader. And then I just started telling one person at a time. People can relate. People need to know how they can help too. So once I started to tell the story and say, hey, I need help with this, or I need help with this, or I need help with this, people started to come on board and say, hey, yeah, I have those skills, or I have this thing I can donate, or I have this. People really want to help. They just need to be told how.
Knowing that your vision was to make an impact on the community and to bring it together, where are you at so far? Like, how are things going? And also, like, what has that meant for you and your staff?
Impact to me is a lot of different things. And I usually all day, every day, I will tell the impact of people's stories and of, you know, that qualitative versus the quantitative, because I really believe that the impact we are making is on this community. It's the community building we are doing. So our mission is to provide community and healthy food for all, regardless of means. And there's a reason why community's first, because everything we do, we are trying to build community, whether it's through eating together or volunteering together. And so here we have had 1,000,001 people step up and be a part of that community. And it works. Like right now we have a guy who you can see him right now. He's in the dish room. He's been here since 7 a.m. in the dish room. He doesn't have to be doing dishes for that long. And he's volunteering for his meal, and he just loves being here. He loves being a part of it. And that's his way to be a part of it. And we just have a ton of people that they come to volunteer for their meal. They don't come for the food. They come for the community. And it's been incredible to see that. We have a woman who comes twice a week to volunteer, and she loves this place. She loves the food. Sure, she's on food stamps. She loves being able to get a salad, because on food stamps you can't really afford a salad because it goes bad so quickly. But she, more than that, she loves that now she feels a part of a place at the table family. My staff, I think I can speak for them because they would say this. You work with so our staff is different. I'm not the average nonprofit who hires a staff of really caring social work majors in college, right? We are a restaurant. We run like a restaurant. I'm the only one that went to school for some sort of humanities degree. And so our staff, they come in, and every day is crazy, right? So they're running around, they're working with volunteers. Every day is different. They never have the same volunteers. They get asked the same question 1,001 times. End of the day, it's really tiring and it's exhausting. But every day I check in, how are you doing? And they say, Maggie, I've never been a part of something like this before, and this has changed my life. I have never felt like I was a part of a community. I've lived here for 2 years. I've never felt like I was a part of a community. And now I can't tell you how loved and how appreciated and how welcomed I feel. And I guarantee every staff member has said that here. And so for the staff to say that, I mean, that just is so transformative to me, that to know that they have a place here just as much as anyone else is wonderful, and they want to be here. And I always thought the kicker was that we paid a living wage. So I was like, yeah, they want to work for us because we paid a living wage. No, they want to work for us because they have a list of 300 volunteers they can call and ask to take them to the doctor. They have a list of people they can say, hey, I'm looking for a couch for my new apartment. Do you have one? Like, we have had so many cool things happen between all different people. So it's just, we're building this awesome community, and I think all of us are really appreciative of it. Long story short. Not short, but long.
What is some great advice that you've received that has helped you along this long journey?
I think, first, no particular advice, but more just like people have contributed where they fit. So I have on my board of directors and in different volunteer circles that we have here, we have restaurant owners, we have lawyers, we have architects, and we have a pro bono architect who's been working on this for 4 years. He's drawn up like 15 different plans for different spaces we looked at until we came here. And I mean, he's been doing it for 4 years for us. So they all have given their own set of advice that has made this place happen. So I like to note that, because all of those folks have really brought in where their skills are. My accountant saves my life. I can't tell you. She does it for free, and she's amazing. And if I didn't have her, I wouldn't even know. Like, I didn't even know what a budget was before this. And she's brought in all of that advice and knowledge for me. So it's all those individuals that have brought specific advice. I think, though, what got me started, if there was one piece of advice, my old mentor said to me, Maggie, and this was prior to A Place at the Table, Maggie, your greatest passion meets halfway with the world's greatest need. And I know that's already a quote from, of course, I don't remember who quotes it right now, but that, to me, it really stuck with me, and that's why A Place at the Table's here. My greatest passion is loving people. My greatest passion is making people feel included and welcomed and loved and cared for, and that means people with means and people without means. And I think Raleigh's greatest need was a place like this, a place that really, brought the haves and the have-nots together. And so that really stuck with me, and that launched me forward into working on this. Just FYI, for all who don't know me, I knew nothing about restaurants or nonprofits. So there you go.
So say someone's starting out. So say someone hasn't quite found their thing yet, but they're getting close to it. So like they're figuring out what their passion is. If someone's starting, like what advice do you have for them to take that first step?
I could talk for hours on this one. I could, if you want to call me, you can call me and I will help you with anything. But truly, lean on your community. Lean on your community. It's the people around you who are going to get you through this. If I did not lean on my community of the people that loved me, the people that were the advice givers, then this would not have happened. Lean on your community to help you, support you, advocate for you, be your champions in the community. You need people around you to do things, to do anything. Everyone needs people around them. Everyone needs a community support system. So lean on the people around you and ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Kind of what I said earlier is people want to help. They just have to be asked how. So ask and don't be afraid to ask. Good things happen when communities come together and when people come together. So don't feel like you have to do this alone.
That is perfect advice. So Maggie, thank you so much again. And thank you for sharing your story. And just thank you for being you. You are such an inspiration.
No, you guys are the inspiration. No, I truly am the lucky one that gets to do this every day. Small note, I told them earlier this, but had a really rough day yesterday and then came in this morning and ran into someone who was experiencing poverty and homelessness and hadn't seen him in 6 years since the first time I met him. And he said, "Hey, Maggie," he said, "thank you so much for having a place here and for y'all providing a meal and letting me volunteer. I finally feel like I fit." And so, I'm the lucky one that gets to do this every single day. It's just such a great reminder.
And another big thanks to Maggie Kane for being our guest and for welcoming us to your table.
If you live in the Triangle or are planning to visit Raleigh, definitely check out A Place at the Table on West Hargett Street. Also, you can follow A Place at the Table on social media at Table Raleigh. If you're not local, you should definitely check out the One World Everybody Eats website and find the closest Pay What You Can cafe near you. We'll definitely be sure to include these links in the show notes.
If you want to get plugged in and meet other ARC vendors, you should join our Facebook group, ARC Vendors IRL. And if you have any ideas for topics that you'd like to see us cover in future episodes, you can leave us a voicemail at 984-464-0254 or email us at hello@wearethearcvendors.com.
So our next episode is Pierce Freelon, a professor, musician, and social entrepreneur. He's the founder of Black Space, a digital makerspace for Afrofuturists. He's also the frontman of jazz and hip-hop group The Beast and the co-founder/host of Beatmaking Lab, an Emmy Award-winning PBS web series. Y'all are going to be fascinated by Pierce. He is so freaking cool.
If you love ARC vendors and want to help, please spread the word with your friends and rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. You can also find us online at wearethearcvendors.com and on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Music for today's episode is by the one and only Ryan Levin.
Thanks so much for tuning in. And don't forget, every little thing you can do to make a difference matters.